My name is Dr. Colleen Bell. I am an associate professor in the Department of Political Studies at the University of Saskatchewan.
Philippe, Beaulieu-Brossard, and I am a professor at Canadian Forces College.
Amy Brosnan. I'm actually in the New Zealand Army, so I am an officer. Joe Rodrigues. I am a DEI trainer and consultant.
My name is Tanni, Mukhopadhyay, and I'm a long-term UN staff member.
Nancy Annan. I'm an assistant professor with the Center for Peace and Security at Coventry University in the UK.
My intervention today was focused on the Women, Peace and Security portion of my course, where the module itself was somewhat open in terms of just having students understand some of the origins, particularly the anti-militarist and radical feminist origins of the WPS agenda, but also how it's become increasingly entwined in counterterrorism and countering violent extremism agendas, particularly in relation to the prevention pillar. And so students had an opportunity to think critically about that. And one of the places that we started was with the ways in which the counterterrorism and countering violent extremism approaches assume that radicalism is negative and leads to forms of violence.
So I was invited to provide a showcase of Inner Alliance, which is what we call a transformative game for players to experience situations that will prompt them to, take into consideration the different people that they need to deal with in operations, but also in their team. So in Women for Peace and Security terminology, the game really allowed the player to develop more capacity to engage inward for different people in their team, and also outward for different people that they may have to deal with in operations. And the game has 3 levels. So the first one is really focused on empathetic leadership, the second one on child protection, and the third one on gender-based violence.
The presentation I offered today was to ask the question, what is the point of doing any of this work? And in that presentation, what I really wanted to drive home is that in order for us to use all these approaches to try to include women and transgender folk and all these people who are marginalized, how we get to that point is by being able to deal with difficult emotions. Deal with difficult emotions, being able to meaningfully acknowledge people and what they're saying, even if you disagree, and to meaningfully be accountable.
Making visibility around the progress made so far, but also visibility around when we talk about gender in classrooms, instead of, hiding around it, but creating spaces that people can feel free to talk about it. So bringing visibility to what has been achieved around women, peace and security, but also what are some of the issues that exist in that space as well.
What stuck with me is that there are speakers who are talking about how do we now take this gender analysis, how do we take the standards operating procedures and apply it in this heated conflict.
Context matters so much in delivering and doing WPS. So if people are working with the security sector, for example, the ways in which they're able to mobilize and do work around WPS has to be seen as valuable to that community and articulated in a way that is consistent with, the values of the institution that they're working with.
To highlight the kinds of issues that are going to be the next generation set of issues for WPS. So while we have a context in which we are advocating and highlighting the issues of gender equality and sensitivity to the WPS agenda, I think we have to understand and respond to the context of backlash and backsliding that's also occurring in the larger sort of social context across the world, which puts the current sort of achievements on gender equality at risk.
Using these art-based, participatory, interactive pedagogies in WPS teaching and education, I think that should be a useful tool for the future. And I think that will get more women particularly to engage in the conversation.
Just seeing everyone collaborating here today and learning from each other. And I think we all value the importance of supporting each other within an area that can be very difficult to teach and is not always well received and also quite often under-resourced. So certainly these types of events help us to work together and move forward in the same direction and support each other in doing that. Yeah.